I am joined by Robert Griffin III, James White, Field Yates, Mina Kimes.
All right, so first play we're going to look at 2nd and 2, one of the Patriots' first offensive plays.
What's going on, everybody? Mike Kadlick here. Taylor Kyle's there, back with our second Patriots Daily episode of the day. Back on the offensive side of the football this morning. We were here reacting to the Patriots' hire of defensive coordinator Terrell Williams. Today, another episode involving Josh McDaniels. Our first film room dive of the offseason, taking a look at just exactly, Taylor's stuff here. No more reacting to news. Exactly. No more riffing about nonsense. Just looking at the film and seeing just how Josh McDaniels can maximize Drake Maye. We're going to look at how we can maximize that skill set. We're going to look at some quotes that Josh McDaniels mentioned earlier this season on Games with Names with Julian Edelman, sort of talking about Maye's skill set and also the steps he takes in his offense to develop young quarterbacks. So jam-packed, going to be fun. The first thing we're going to do, though, is look at the Patriots offensive roster as a whole and kind of figure out what or who the Josh McDaniels hire affects and in what way. You know, our guys in good standing, our guys in bad standing, and sort of what it could mean for basically everybody on the roster. We'll do that really quick here before we dive in to Josh McDaniels. So Taylor, if you want to pull up that roster, we're going to use the same one we used last week and kind of figure out what exactly this whole thing means for each and every player. And I think we start at quarterback. It's A+ for Drake Maye. Everything's good. And I think everything's probably good for Joe Milton too. Someone who will come in and continue to be able to develop in Josh McDaniels' system.
Yeah, I think this will be really good for both guys, especially Drake Maye. And we'll get into it more once we get into all the ways that Josh McDaniels can maximize him. But the type of system that Josh McDaniels runs, we've already heard from Alex Van Pelt talking about how they wanted to be multiple, how they wanted to be adaptable and all those things. But that literally is what the Erhardt-Perkins scheme, what Josh McDaniels runs is, where the game plan can change week to week. Honestly, go check out Brian Hoyer's appearance on I think it was the NBC Sports with Tom and Phil. I'm blanking.
Patriots Talk podcast.
Yes, he had a great appearance on there, kind of breaking down the difference between the West Coast and the Erhardt-Perkins, where with that one, with the latter, you really are changing it week to week versus the West Coast, where you're running the same things, you're just disguising them differently, which is why all the window dressing you see with the motion and different looks from teams like the Dolphins, the 49ers, the Rams, that's because that's an integral part of their scheme. You have to present things different ways or else people are going to have tells for your offense. That was a bit of a problem for the Patriots last year. So being able to be in that kind of adaptable offense with a quarterback who can do pretty much anything, and on top of that, having an offense where the quarterback is the one in command, as we saw with Mac Jones. Like the first week of his entire career, the Dolphins went absolutely nuts. They sent so much cover zero at him, which even gave Drake Maye issues last year, even though we didn't see a ton of it. And Drake consistently had answers for it, another thing we'll get to. But being able to just have everything kind of under his rule is going to really pay off for this team down the road, given what a cerebral player he is. So probably maybe not quite as much early on, but as he gets smarter, I feel like just the ceiling is just unlimited with a guy like Drake Maye and Josh McDaniels and everything that he brings.
As a very smart man, not Magic Johnson, Michael. Was it Magic or Michael Jordan? The ceiling is the roof. It was Michael Jordan. It's some nonsense phrase that he said at a UNC basketball game one time. But the ceiling is the roof for Drake Maye in this offense.
I've never understood that. I was going to say, I was like, does that even make sense? I mean,
it makes no sense. It's just he was caught off guard, hot mic type of thing. But regardless, running back room here, Taylor. I think the fact that Mondre's worked in Josh's system before. And then I also look at Antonio Gibson, who's under contract, a third down back who can catch the football as well. Seems like a cerebral player, a smart guy to have in this system. I feel like both of those guys will ultimately benefit with this thing too.
Yeah, Ramondre Stevenson obviously was his first season, but he had his best year under Josh McDaniels. I think he had a really good rotation going with not only Damian Harris, who was their top back at the time, but then Mondre. Obviously, Damian got hurt as well, but he did a good job mixing those two where they really did feel like more of a 1A, 1B. Hopefully, Josh, just the leadership that he provides will, and also Tony Dews will help with Ramondre's fumble issues. And then with Antonio Gibson, we talked about it last year. It was so odd that he never really turned into that third down receiving back who you line up all over the place, kind of like a James White that we were expecting. We saw that with Brandon Bolden, though, in Mac Jones's rookie year. Unfortunately, friend of the show, James White, went down early with what would ultimately be a career-ending injury. Brandon Bolden took on all of that. He was running the wheels. He was splitting out and catching passes deep. So I think, one, Antonio Gibson's going to have to be more consistent in pass protection. We broke it down at times in some games where he would miss assignments and sometimes get out. Like, we literally heard it from him. So he's going to have to be more consistent so that Josh McDaniels trusts him in those third down situations. But if he can, I really think, and either way, especially in their empty packages, I think Josh McDaniels is going to do a much better job of maximizing Antonio Gibson.
For sure. Seems like a good fit for both those guys. Where it might not be a great fit for some of these guys is the wide receiver room. And that's what we're going to get to next. Now, I'll say it off the top, and we talked about
coordinator hires official, both of them.
Oh, did they do DC as well? I saw that.
Yeah.
Josh. Okay.
Yeah, Terrell Williams was uploaded literally a minute ago.
Got it. Okay. So the Patriots have officially announced the hiring of Josh McDaniels and Terrell Williams as their offensive and defensive coordinators. So not that there was any doubt that it would happen, but it is team official now. So here we go. All right, wide receiver room feels like sort of a mystery box. I'll say the one off the top that the one guy that's probably going to benefit the most is Kendrick Bourne, who he had his mental gaffes the last couple of years, but he seemed to be pretty much in lockstep with Josh McDaniels' offense the last time he was here. We talked about it last night on the show when the news broke about McDaniels that Kendrick Bourne had a career year when Josh McDaniels was here in 2021. So if they can get on the same page, back another year post ACL surgery for Kendrick Bourne, I feel like it's only on the right track for him. But what are your thoughts on that, as well as Pop Douglas and the rest of these young receivers? How do you think they sort of stand in this Josh McDaniels offense?
Yeah, for Kendrick Bourne, this is like a best case scenario for him, really. Actually, Greg Bedard dropped a great nugget that Kendrick Bourne apparently is more of a visual learner, and Josh McDaniels was able to teach him in a way that really he was able to adapt to. And that was why Kendrick Bourne had a pretty insane year. The numbers are one thing. When you look at the types of catches he was making back in 2021, the hype was there for a reason in 2022. Like, he really was balling out and felt like he should have been a bigger part of the offense back then. But obviously they were running a lot of 12 personnel. Jacoby Myers was still like the dude in that wide receiver room. So one, he goes back to a system he knows with the coach he knows. So a lot of the mental errors, I think, we won't see nearly as much of, hopefully. And the fact he's a year removed from the torn ACL, now we can expect maybe some more explosiveness. So before the Josh hire, I was seeing Kendrick Bourne as a guy who really needed to secure a spot and have a great camp. Otherwise, maybe young guys were going to overtake him. But now it feels like Kendrick Bourne, this might be the best place for him in the NFL. The young guys, it's tricky. Now, with Kayshon Boutte, the speaking out and everything, you're hoping the new culture, that's a little bit more buttoned up. You'd like to see him be more consistent. Drops were a problem. It seemed like effort, or at least finish on routes, were issues. Again, that's a whole culture thing where finish and effort from Mike Vrabel are the non-negotiables. So it doesn't really even matter about Josh McDaniels. He's got to really kind of continue to mature as a player. But I think that Josh would still be able to find a role for him, even if it was more as like a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 type. I'm not sure that he should be the starting X next season if they can help it. Jalen Polk, we talked about it. He pretty much is Jacoby Myers. Their skill sets are very similar, even though Jalen Polk maybe has a bit more versatility and juice. Now, struggled last year, no doubt about it. Hopefully, and this is where it's tricky for him and Javon Baker, this is going to be their second year in the league, but this is going to be a whole different offense, another offense where attention to detail is critical. Now, with Polk, maybe if he can, just have a mental reset, maybe this culture is good for him. His role is pretty easy to determine. Javon Baker, though, just because it seemed like it was even harder for him to mentally catch up, and it seemed like learning how to not only be a professional, but work in Alex Van Pelt's offense was complicated. In college, he really only lined up on one side of the field for the vast majority of the time, and he ran a very small route tree. So honestly, Javon Baker is somebody I kind of see now on the outside looking in. He's going to have a great camp. Otherwise, I could see them trying to move on just because I think he could fit in Josh's offense, but I just don't love it necessarily. And then DeMario Douglas, I don't think he'll be terribly affected. I hope that Josh can maybe increase his awareness when it comes to zone coverage, scrambling, things like that, so he can be more consistent. But I see him a lot in that Danny Amendola vein, where he is someone who's probably not going to be on the field for base downs unless he really establishes himself, maybe takes another step and he's just a guy you don't ever want to take off the field. But with that Dola role, it's a lot of like quick stuff in the flat, getting him into space. Not a whole lot of catches over the middle where he can take those big hits, because as we know, Amendola injuries were a bit of an issue for him as well. So the returning guys, I think it should be good for them, or the guys who've been in the league for a few years.
Right.
Kayshon Boutte, again, he and the young receivers, I just think, really need to attach to this new culture and also just bring their best foot forward when they get back to camp, because it is going to be pretty difficult adjusting to another pretty complex, I'll say, system, even if it is dumbed down a little bit so it's easier for everyone.
Definitely. You wonder, my thing with Jalen Polk is, yes, he sort of hit that mental lapse, which everyone sort of talked about last year. I wonder if a reset, new system, new coach, new vibe is actually, even though it's a change, it's beneficial to what happened to him last season. We'll see what happens. He obviously has the skill set. He had the production in college. So hopefully he will get things going here next season. Now, moving on to tight ends, Hunter Henry, his first or second best season, I would say, with the Patriots. He obviously had a career high with 9 touchdowns. Josh McDaniels' season here in 2021 had 603 receiving yards on 50 catches. This year, he kind of went nuclear, 66 catches for 674. Not nuclear, but nuclear for Hunter Henry anyway. But had a career, no, I'm sorry, I'm reading the stats wrong, but 12.1 average yards per catch in 2021 here with Josh. They used him pretty well, and like I said, he connected with Mac Jones on 9 touchdowns that year. So your thoughts on Hunter Henry being back in the fold with Josh McDaniels, as well as not only Jaheim Bell, but the potential of Austin Hooper returning now that it is a different system, not Alex Van Pelt. Will they prioritize Austin Hooper as much as we thought last week, or could they maybe go a different route at the second tight end position?
I think that Austin Hooper still fits the mold of what they generally like, especially considering he gives you good receiving ability and he's played under Vrabel before. So, yeah, I think Austin Hooper in pretty much the same role as he had last year definitely makes sense as kind of a priority re-signing. Hunter Henry, no one has used him as well as in the red zone as Josh McDaniels did. Also, I think the stuff over the middle where we know Josh loves that play where you pull the guard, make it look like count or long trap, and then you send your tight ends, your slot receivers down the seam. I think he and Drake Maye are going to be absolute money on that. Also, the crossers, the sail concepts. This is going to be great for Hunter Henry and Kendrick Bourne, the guys who've already shown they can thrive in this offense. And I think Austin Hooper will slide right in. Now, where things get more complicated is with Jaheim Bell, because we all know him as more of an H-back type, more of a guy you want in the backfield. In terms of that fullback role, typically Josh McDaniels has had real hammers like Jakob Johnson, like James Devlin. He hasn't had the more Kyle Juszczyk types, although he did have Aaron Hernandez, obviously, who you kind of see Jaheim Bell fitting in that role of a guy who you just line up all over the field. Now, Jaheim needs to be more consistent in his execution, but I could see a bit of that type of like chess piece joker role that we did see from Hernandez back in the day. I don't know if he'll be used as much as a fullback. I really don't think that fits the type of gap scheme that Josh McDaniels is going to run, where you're taking on a lot of defensive ends. You're going downhill on ISO and you're taking on middle linebackers. I just don't know that Jaheim Bell is that guy. I think he's more of a guy you want on the move, maybe on the backside. It'll be interesting to see how that works out, but his role is going to be just really dependent on his consistency in camp, I think. And then Jack Westover obviously is still a bit of a mystery, but he's similar in that more of an H-back than really a fullback type or a guy you want on the line of scrimmage.
Got it. All right. Well, one last thing here, and it is the offensive line, a position group we know has struggled with the Patriots the last couple seasons. How can Josh McDaniels improve that? Do they have to go through free agency, the draft, things like that? But also, I will say off the top before I kind of hand it over to you, David Andrews, Mike Onwenu have worked with Josh McDaniels before. There's carryover there. That certainly helps. Cole Strange, actually, as well as a rookie, was here with or 2 years, no? Was Cole Strange here with Josh McDaniels? He might not have been.
Cole was not, no, 2022, because he was drafted because Matt Patricia wanted to go to outside.
You're totally right. So Cole has not worked with Josh McDaniels. Appreciate the correction there. But Andrews and Mike Onwenu have. So I feel like that is obviously a positive, can kind of turn over and look be familiar with that. But thoughts on everywhere else, the rookies, Caden Wallace, Layden Robinson, and Vidarian Lowe sort of still being that potential one of the top swing tackles for the Patriots after they ultimately address the position moving forward.
Yeah, this is definitely a scheme that favors Cole Strange at center over guard because although I think they're still going to run a decent amount of outside zone, I think that's what Antonio Gibson's best at. So I think we'll see more of that when he's in the game. I think also the fact that you want to move the pocket a little bit more with Drake Maye. Outside zone just makes that a lot easier because you're moving sideways versus moving, forwards as you would on more of like gap concepts and things like that. So it complicates things when it comes to the left guard spot because I think you feel less confident that you have a potential starter. At least if it was an outside zone scheme, I think Cole Strange is a more ideal fit at that spot. But now you're thinking, okay, Layden Robinson's unproven. Cole, I don't love him as a fit. So it complicates things there. Left tackle, you still need a starter. But I still think, Vidarian Lowe, quality spot starter. Also, I think he's much better blocking downhill in those gap kinds of schemes. Layden Robinson, a guy where his physicality, his length, his power, I think that's going to be really good, especially with him as more of a puller, like ceiling on the edge and things like that. Need to be better, though, getting to that second level is what I'd really say. Caden Wallace also, I think he has the potential to be really good with Mike Nwenu on those combo blocks, but I also need to see him sustain blocks with more consistency. From there, City So, I think he has a little more chance to stick around because he is such a good fit. I think he's okay in outside zone. I thought he was manageable, but he's definitely better going downhill. So I think the offensive line room, the depth looks better, although I think Cole Strange now doesn't look quite as good if you're thinking about playing him at guard.
Should be interesting how that pans out. Again, hopefully David Andrews comes back because obviously he's their best option at center, but he's also worked in the system before, can help Drake Maye along. But if he doesn't, I do like the fact that you mentioned he's probably better fit at center than guard in this system. He had the connection with May down the stretch last year, so he could potentially be their center in waiting if David Andrews does move on to retirement. So we'll see how that all plays out, but that is a quick look at the roster overall. Now we're going to get into how go.
Really quick, I just want to address this comment really quickly. Okay. Actually, also, we have a chat, so we have to get to. Okay, the Baker thing. Talent means nothing in the NFL if you cannot play football, if you can't do what you're expected to do, if your coaches don't trust you. We consistently heard from Alex Van Pelt that Baker just wasn't doing enough in practice to warrant a significant role on game days. So I don't really care about the talent anymore. That was why I was intrigued by him. But after seeing week after week of him either not getting a lot of snaps or getting them and not making the most of them, I'm sorry, but yeah, he's on the outside looking in because maybe a coach who I don't want to say is less detail-oriented, but I just think someone like Josh, whose offense is so dependent, like Alex Van Pelt's, on timing between the quarterback and the receivers, I need to see it before I put any stock in him being someone they rely on.
All right. And we also have the super chat here. Good afternoon, gents. We appreciate you, Jeff. Did Josh ever have input in drafting offensive linemen? Was he a part of the drafting of David Andrews, Joe Tooney, Shaq Mason, Nate Solder? I don't know. I'm not 100% sure how involved he was with those guys. But again, the
sounds like a Bill job, to be honest.
It does. I mean, maybe he leaned on him a little bit just to figure out what kind of guys you would prefer.
But I feel like Scar, though, before I don't know after Scar retired, but that was the person who Bill was consulting. I think actually, no, he continued to consult him after Scar retired. So, yeah, I think it was much more Scar Necchia than it was McDaniels if he was involved at all.
Yeah, for sure. But Jeff, as always, appreciate the super chat. So we're going to get into all of Josh and how he can maximize Drake Maye. But first, we'll be right back. Quick word from our friends at Prize Picks. Talk to you in a second. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all, and all you have to do is pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks, and the big game in the NFL is almost here, which means it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last football game of the season with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the game. Prize Picks is also giving away a free pick for the big game, where one of the starting quarterbacks will only need to throw for 1 yard to win. And if you're correct on at least one more stat projection, you will win real cash. So sign up today on the Prize Picks app. You'll get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. So make sure you sign up today, download the app, and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. That's Prize Picks as you know it. Head over there, code CLNS, $50 instantly. Play that first $5 lineup there, and you will get that $50. And right now, if you need some enticing, if you need some help, if you see on screen here, Jaden Daniels, there is a free pick not only in the big game next coming up on February 9th, but this weekend as well. The NFC Championship, there is a free pick, Jaden Daniels, to have more than half a passing yard. That's all it takes. It's one square for you. So they give you a projection discount there if you sign up. So $50 instantly. After $5, you get the Jaden Daniels piece there too. So sign up today. Again, if you look below us, code CLNS, get $50 instantly. All right. We're going to dive into the film. Taylor has one more thing. I see it on his face. What do you got for me?
I was just thinking about this. So everybody's doing the Drake and Josh memes and everything. This is what I was doing during the break. So Drake and Josh debuted in 2004.
Oh my God.
Drake Maye was born in 2002. I don't even know if he watched Drake and Josh.
No shot he watched it. That's like,
oh my God.
Yeah, that makes me feel really freaking old. And then you think about like I'm trying to think of, okay, like we watched Drake and Josh as kids, but what are the shows that like the older generation watched as kids that we don't know about? Like that's Drake and Josh for him. Like Saved by the Bell, like comes to mind kind of because Saved by the Bell was like a 90s show, although maybe even All That. Like those are what Drake and Josh is to Drake Maye, which
I really don't like that. Oh, it's so existential dread. But I'm sorry, I got us off track. That would just freak me out.
No, that's nasty. That's gross. You got us off track and you made me feel really old, so I appreciate that. But all right, let's get into Drake Maye, and I want to read off a couple things to kind of set the stage on what we're going to look at and what ultimately we can look for with McDaniels and Drake Maye, because he did speak about Drake Maye earlier this offseason on Julian Edelman's podcast, Games with Names. Talked a little bit about Drake Maye's skill set this offseason. Said he didn't get a ton to look at him in the spring, but he has great size. He's really athletic, and thought this was interesting. Doesn't know where he'll fit in the hole, like if he'll play as a runner, as a pure pocket passer, but he was interested to see if they'll use him as a dual threat guy. And then the other thing he mentioned too with Drake Maye is the under center exchange, which it didn't look right in the preseason. He figured it out a little bit down the stretch, but there was still some.
It was Ben Brown's fault, the damn towel.
Exactly, right. And so, but there was still some question marks about it down the stretch. And I liked how Josh said it's all about time on task and getting those reps in. And that kind of leads to the development where you don't do something much in college, but once you get reps and reps and reps and reps on it, then that's how you're going to get better as a player, which ultimately comes into the development for him, saying that, you know, you need to have a plan. It starts from the head coach, and you kind of got to make progress every step of the way. Talked about it's all about where the player's at and then where you want him to be, where guys he's worked with, and he mentioned Matt Castle, Jimmy Garoppolo, Jarrett Stidham, Jacoby Brissett, Mac Jones, Aiden O'Connell, who were all at different spots in their development when he grabbed them or started working with them, and had to kind of curate.
It's not like he kidnapped him.
Yeah, right. I know. He grabbed him by the head and said, I need to develop you. Where are you at? But that's kind of what he did, right? And so talking about being at those different spots, having good feel for where those players are at. And this one stood out to me too. And this is something Mac Jones used to talk about a lot, where he has his buckets. And, you know, this is my bucket, and I put things in this bucket and that bucket. Josh McDaniels said the same thing. All guys have a bucket. When you're a young quarterback, it's more like a cup. And how much can you fit in that cup? And sort of taking things piece by piece where, okay, today we're going to work on third down. Today we're going to work on blitz. Today we're going to work on exchange. What can you know? What can you sort of ace? And then we can move on to the next thing.
And you know what that sounds like?
What's that?
What Mike Vrabel said when he talked about how he wanted to support Drake Maye and saying, or really just what he wanted to do with his offense. And he's like, I'm not going to put in RPOs, and our quarterback's not good at RPOs. I'm not going to have all these motions and shift and put all these cadences in if our guys aren't ready for it. So that's one of those ways where you can see where this meeting probably went well between, you know, ownership, Vrabel, and Josh McDaniels, where he's well aware, because he's worked with young quarterbacks before, that you can't just completely shove the fire hose in their mouth and just be like, all right, drink, pledge, drink.
Right.
Like, you have to sometimes wait and see what they're comfortable with, especially in an offense as robust as what the Patriots have, because obviously they spent years building it and kind of growing it out based on what Brady was comfortable with and what he knew.
And the thing with that too, which I found interesting, was sort of what he said at the end of the conversation, which was I love the idea of the quarterback being able to understand it all.
Mm.
End goal here. I don't think he needs Drake to know it immediately, but they're going to sort of build on the ability to understand the offense in full, make line calls, make changes. And that's the other thing. I saw you quote tweeted Brian's tweet from earlier where last year line calls, protections, audibles from the offensive line was really on the center position, where under Josh McDaniels, it's more so on the quarterback, changing up those types of things. So I think eventually they'll want to build Drake up to that.
And our buddy Andre Weingarten also pointed out that now, if the quarterback goes down, you're screwed regardless. Now, if your center unfortunately goes down, it doesn't hamstring your offense as much because now you don't have a young guy or an inexperienced guy or what have you having to pick up this whole offense and do it themselves. Now, that responsibility is with people who you hope are never going to get injured. So that's another pretty huge benefit to that.
Exactly. And so this Earhart-Perkins system that Josh runs that we're going to get into, I like that you mentioned how it doesn't just change by player, but it changes by game plan and by week and what you need to be able to do. And it kind of brings in everything. And it's been mentioned that Josh has brought in some college into his scheme where he worked with Ohio State last year. So I want to get into, and we should get into the film room now. And we're going to start with attacking the middle of the field. That's going to kind of be one of the bread and butters here. So take us through what you were able to grab and how that can help Drake Maye in this offense.
Yeah, so attacking the middle is obviously what Tom Brady did very well for a long time, what Mac Jones was able to do for the most part. Now, one of the reasons that Cam Newton struggled so much as a passer was because throwing over the middle wasn't something he was as good at because he didn't have the arm velocity or the accuracy, and it made it a much more high volatile type of play. Drake Maye, first thing I asked him when he was drafted was, what's your bread and butter? What are you comfortable with? He loves throwing over the middle. He said, I'm a big, tall guy. That's where I feel the most comfortable. Alex Van Pelt did a very good job taking advantage of that. I think that Josh McDaniels is just going to do it in some slightly different ways, although a lot of these ideas and concepts are going to overlap. So first, we're going to look at a play from Josh McDaniels when he was with the Raiders. This is going to be cross dagger peel. Basically what that means is up top, you're going to get a post route on the outside. You're going to get a wheel from the tight end. Basically, most of the time, what that's designed to do is just clear out that part of the field because here you're going to get Devontae Adams running a crosser, and you're going to get Keenan Cole, I believe this is, running the dagger route or the dig behind it. So, all right, you're clearing out this top side of the field. The middle, you want Devontae Adams, but if he's not there, you're fine throwing backside to your dig route. So what we're actually going to see here is the defense we're going to see from the Colts actually prioritizes taking away Devontae Adams. That leaves the deep middle wide open. Unfortunately, Derek Carr is not able to deliver an accurate ball. That throw is incomplete. But the exciting part of this is that you can actually make these throws with Drake Maye because that big post is his bread and butter. And the throw that we always go to when we want to talk about the post is the corner post he threw to Javon Baker in the preseason game against the Eagles, dropped it in the bucket. Of course, Javon couldn't bring it in. We're not going to talk about that anymore, though. That is in the past. Now, that's one way you can push the ball downfield, right? Play action, probably the most simple version of that. But you can also use max protection. This is something you see a lot in Josh McDaniels' offenses, a lot of two-man route combinations that give the quarterback a bit more protection and time to push the ball downfield. Here, we're not going to get play action, but we are going to get help from the tight ends and from the running back. And the route combination we're going to get is a dig from Devontae Adams with a post over the top. This time, the safety actually does a good job taking away the post and staying on top of it, but that leaves the middle of the field wide open for Devontae Adams. And once again, not an accurate throw, even though it's wide open. So that doesn't matter. A throw that you expect Drake Maye to make, and one that we know he can make, even if it is tight coverage. This was during a 2-minute situation against the Bears. Absolute dime to Kayshon Boutte, despite the fact that the defender is playing leverage underneath and inside because of the split safeties, still drops an absolute dime. So again, the posts, the digs, you're going to see a lot of these under Josh McDaniels, but with Drake Maye, you actually have a quarterback who isn't just going to threaten over the middle on the crossers and the digs and all the intermediate stuff like we always saw with Mac Jones. Right. Drake Maye is going to threaten that post where if you decide that you're going to sit on that first in breaker, he's going to make you pay. Another one, the bread and butter for Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski, the run action where you send a tight end up the seam for a pretty easy completion. This is actually a more difficult version of it because typically you want to pull the guard to influence zone defenders and hold them in place, create some space behind them. Here, you're going to get Hunter Henry in the backfield, and he's going to motion, actually indicates man coverage. Going to get the pull right here, make it look like long trap, which is a staple for the Patriots, forces the linebackers to step up, gives Mac Jones a bit more of a window. Nice little route from Hunter Henry to get open, throw that down the seam. And we know Drake Maye loves him a nice seam ball because we saw it against the Jaguars. Great job seeing that the pole defender was occupied by Hunter Henry and not putting this too high, too low, putting this just right between zone defenders so that KJ Osborne could make a pretty straightforward catch there. Another element that I think Josh McDaniels, is going to bring to this offense are answers against cover zero. Not just answers, but potentially explosive plays. Now, it felt like when the Patriots saw cover zero later in the season, no one really used it against Drake Maye early. They ticked it up more like against the Chargers, against the Bills. It felt like there weren't really great answers, or at least it didn't feel like Drake was confident when he threw it. It was either inaccurate, he held onto the ball, didn't make great decisions, or sometimes it felt like maybe the offense took a little too long to adjust. But I mentioned that first game from Mac Jones. It's gonna drive me crazy against Miami.
Number 10. They should not have given Drake Maye the same number as Mac.
Oh wait, no, you're not. I was muted because I think I accidentally audio recorded something.
They all I was saying was they should not have given Drake Maye the number 10. I know it's his number, but same number as Mac. They look the same. It's
the M's. It's really, really messing me up. But anyway, you did see, especially early on, Josh actually gave Mac Jones the ability to get max protection, keep the tight end, and keep the running back, and throw downfield, which we didn't really see from Drake Maye. Again, it was a very small sample size, but this is one example of what we could see. So first, Mac Jones sees that it's cover zero, and he's going to do this little banjo thing. That's how you know he's changing the play, is going to get Hunter Henry to shift to the other side. You know how against the Seahawks, we saw that they would use this formation where the tight end would kind of shift across, but before he crossed the center, they would snap the ball, and it basically forced one of the defenders on the tight end to kind of just stay and not enter the rush, and it took a man basically out of the play. Here, they kind of do a similar thing by having Hunter Henry instead shift across the formation. That gives Mac Jones just enough time to let this go on a post to Nelson Aguilar. That was one of the best throws that Mac Jones made in his entire Patriots career. So, once again, the ways before we even get into all the things you maximize with a guy like Drake Maye, who's got awesome mobility, the first thing you want to do is make sure that you are getting that ball downfield and over the middle, outside as well. But the priority is getting over the middle where guys can make plays. I think Josh McDaniels is going to give him plenty of opportunities, whether it's play action, whether it's max protection, straight dropbacks, whether it's both of those things, or whether it's against the blitz and you want to punish the defense for trying to heat up your quarterback. Josh McDaniels is going to give Drake Maye plenty of answers and opportunities to make big plays.
It is, like you said, it was Tom Brady's favorite was over the middle. Clearly, Drake Maye's as well, both comfortable. And you can see it too, right? Where you look at Mac Jones. He had the dig routes and the quick hitters across the middle. That post route down the seam, down the hashes that Drake Maye can hit. It's going to be a phenomenal fit with Josh McDaniels. The other part here that we'll get to right now is the movement in the pocket. And I know we're going to do design runs, and that's really where you get the legs going. But moving the pocket with a mobile quarterback is crucial and can be crucial. Now, he also did it with Tom, and he did it with Mac a little bit here. But really, you're going to be able to do that with this guy in Drake Maye. So take us through how they can move these pockets and sort of get him throwing from a different standpoint and looking at this.
Actually, I'm having technical difficulties, so could we maybe go to our sponsor really quickly?
Let's do it. Let's talk about our friends at Game Time. Taylor's going to fix his back end, and then we will be right back. Here's Game Time. Talk to you in a few minutes. This episode is also powered by Game Time, the best place to get tickets to anything, concerts, games, and more. They have the Game Time Picks feature that makes getting tickets even easier. It filters out the fluff and only shows you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets to find the best value. They also have the lowest price guarantee, and they have seat views to check out exactly what it's going to look like from your seat. So make sure you download the Game Time app today to take the guesswork out of buying tickets. Download the app, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. That is Game Time, Taylor. What time is it?
Game time.
Do we have the technical difficulties okay?
Yes. I can
good.
make it work. I can make it work.
Just wanted to make sure we weren't going to have to abort mission here on the rest of this show. Celtics playing tonight in LA. I mentioned the Prize Picks lineup coming out soon. There's also tickets at the new Intuit Dome for as low as $52 right now. A 10:30 tip out here, a 7:30 tip if you are on the West Coast watching Patriots Daily. And right now, again, you can get in for as little as $52 on the Game Time app. Use that code CLNS. You get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. All right, Taylor, what do you got for us? How are they going to move the pocket with Drake Maye? How does Josh McDaniels move the pocket and use that to this offense's advantage?
First of all, Michaela, be nice to me. I work very hard for you. This is tough to put together, but
hey,
we got it this time. All right. So one of the biggest things that we want to see from Drake Maye and Josh McDaniels is maximizing his mobility. A lot of that's going to come with moving the pocket. But the first thing that's going to come to a lot of people's heads is, okay, if you're moving the pocket, but you're not really an outside zone type of team, how are you going to do it, right?
How does it look? Right.
Right. Well, first of all, they're not going to completely go away with the bootlegs and the outside zone action, but I think it's important to know there's different ways they can actually get to it. So first of all, I'm going to show some wide zone action because this was something we saw more of when Josh McDaniels was in Vegas. He had Jimmy Garoppolo, who came from an outside zone system, Josh Jacobs, who was very good in an outside zone system, and quarterbacks who were better throwing on the run. So we saw a little bit more of this. Here, we're going to see the split zone action. Whenever you see a tight end off the ball close to the formation, expect that he's going to sift or basically move across the formation. That's just what we're going to get here. You're going to get the outside zone action, but the tight end is actually going to be on a slide route, wide open. Look at all that space because of the run action. Easy first down there. Now we're going to get counter wide zone action. So first, you're going to get Jacoby Brissett motioning in. This is usually what their receivers do in the Josh McDaniels system, or really in any system, when you're running duo, because you're trying to get this receiver inside to basically add another fit and make it so that the running back is one-on-one with the corner who was originally covering that receiver. But here, they're going to make it look like counters. So you get the step, you get everybody kind of going this way, but it's actually wide zone with the running back going across. All of that confusion gets the defense flowing one way, quarterback rolls out the other. Another easy completion to Michael Mayer in the flat for an explosive gain. Now we're going to get to gap action. It's not always outside zone. We actually saw a little bit of this from Drake Maye last season, but you can also move the pocket by pretending that you are running a gap scheme. Seen this also from Josh McDaniels, like what we saw earlier on the Hunter Henry touchdown, where you pull the guard and makes it look like a run, but you don't just have to go straight drop back. Here, you get the jet motion and the puller coming across, a really common way that Josh McDaniels will run these long trap runs, but the quarterback is going to split out on the bootleg after the tight end chips him just enough to slow down that edge rusher. Remember the Jets when Will McDonald wasn't blocked at all. That little chip is very important. Now, that's how you can do it from under center. But with Drake Maye, you also expect he's going to be in the shotgun a little bit more because you want to be able to open up the run game and use the threat of his legs against defenses. But you don't just have to do it on things like RPOs and design runs. You can do it off of play action. So here, get the motion from the tight end. That's basically a coverage identifier. It tells him that it's going to be a zone coverage. Then you make it look like wide zone. Cam Newton boots out to the other side. Now, you have one receiver coming across on the backside. You got the hitch open, and you got a little bit of a corner route. Probably could hit either one of these. The fun part is with Drake Maye, there are no limits. He can hit the deep, he can hit the intermediate, or he can hit the shallow. Here, Cam Newton throws deep. Unfortunately, does miss because the throw is late. But another example of how you can kind of make that work. Another example, I just really like this one. You actually have James White as an outside receiver in the bunch. So this is 21 personnel, more pony with the two real halfbacks. Get a little bit of an orbit motion to get the defense thinking they might be going one way, but you actually sprint out the other. This one actually was a solid completion to N'Keal Harry. So when it comes to moving the pocket, it's not all outside zone stuff. I still think we're going to see a lot of that, probably more than we did during the Mac Jones and the Tom Brady era. But as we saw in Vegas and as we saw with Cam Newton, Josh McDaniels has the kinds of plays in his playbook that would allow Drake Maye to get outside the pocket and really show off his arm on some of these bootleg actions.
All right, so moving the pocket is okay, fun-ish for a mobile quarterback. The fun stuff is using him as a real runner. And that's when we went into this talking about this show prep. Taylor texted me and said, what's one thing you most want to see with the Drake Maye, Josh McDaniels film? And I said, running the damn football with the quarterback. He mentioned it on the show with Julian Edelman about, is he going to be a Josh Allen or is he just going to be a pocket passer? And we saw that Drake Maye can use his legs. 421 rushing yards in his rookie season, 7.8 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. I was just doing some quick research. Now, the numbers ended up going down, but at one point this season, he had the second most rushing yards per attempt in a first season behind only Michael Vick. So, and that included running backs too. So Drake was gambling for a while. They dialed it down a little bit, as we know, down the stretch. But this dude can run, and I think Josh McDaniels is going to take advantage of it. And I think, Taylor, you do too. So how can they do it? How are they going to use this guy's legs to benefit the rest of their offense?
Yeah, I didn't really talk about scrambling in this video because a lot of this is Josh McDaniels, and scrambles are outside of structure. But a fun stat. So almost all of those yards you mentioned came on scrambles.
Fair.
Drake Maye led the NFL with like 395 scrambles from the time he started to the end of the season. I think Jaden Daniels was second with 380. You know who's third? Justin Herbert with like 295.
Oh, wow, okay.
They're the only 2 quarterbacks over that span with 300 scramble yards, and Drake had almost 100 more than the next closest player.
Wow.
Absolutely insane. Ridiculous. So yeah, clearly this kid can absolutely scoot, but we're hoping that next season we'll see a little bit more of it in structure on these kinds of designed runs. So first, we're going to go over a couple of runs where there's not an option involved. This is just the quarterback straight up getting the ball. And remember, when Josh McDaniels had Cam Newton, he took a ton of the run concepts that Cam Newton used in Carolina, brought them over and applied them to the Patriots. Pretty incredible he did it, especially since Cam Newton got there late. But when I tell you they emptied the kitchen sink, we're talking speed option, pistol, like they were running a little bit of everything. I wanted to show you everything, and I will later. But first, let's look at a few of the runs that we know Drake Maye can execute from his time in college and the league. So in the league, we saw that he can go out on sweeps. This is something you see a lot against man coverages and short yardage, goal line, or something, or red zone situations.
Yeah.
We know that Josh Allen uses it a ton against the Patriots. Drake Maye has experience running it at UNC. And so does Cam Newton when he was with the Patriots. Another sweep running right behind Big Mike Nwenu, who doesn't need to block anybody because
he's just hanging out in space.
Just hanging out in space because that worked so well. Another one, you don't really want to run Drake up the middle very much. I understand that. But there are going to be some looks where the risk isn't that high and you want to give the defense different things to think about, especially if it's like 3rd and 2 or something and you empty out the backfield and the defense is giving you a wide open look. So the draw play, make it look like you're going to pass, have the running back lead the way, go behind him. Drake Maye, not just a scrambler, he's a true ball carrier. He's a big guy, so if you try to tackle him high, he can run out of it. And as we know, he can also fight through contact. We've seen the same play with Cam Newton. This one was really cool because this was that go-go formation they used a lot this season, where you have basically an I, but it's off to the side with the quarterback off in his regular spot in the shotgun. And instead of then pitching it out to the running back, you have Jakob Johnson leading the way, basically a quarterback ISO. Little delay from Cam Newton. He sticks his shoulder down, and as big as he is, he rumbles into the end zone. Again, you want to be careful doing this with Drake, but if he puts on a little bit more muscle in the offseason, he's already a big guy, but more body armor, I'd be for it. Now we get to more of the read option. The most simple, straightforward version of the read option is the zone read. Just inside zone, quarterback reads the unblocked defender, decides whether to keep it or whether to hand it off to the running back. And it was the first time we actually saw Drake keep it on a designed run. Von Miller completely bites in a short yardage situation. I think this was 4th and 2. Drake keeps it, moves the chains there. Now, we've also seen plenty of zone read back in the Cam Newton days. Here he uses it against the Chargers. Joey Bosa bites inside. Second-level defender can't get to Cam. Big play, easy first down. Now, gap read. This is where it gets a little more interesting because what makes it even harder to defend a quarterback read option is when you have pulling guards because defenders are taught, especially at the second level, oh, I see a pulling guard, I follow that guy because he's going to take me to the ball. But when the quarterback or the running back can keep it, you don't know if that puller is taking you to the right spot. So here we're going to see an option where now the Bills usually pull their tackle. The Patriots more pull their guards because their tackles are typically bigger guys. It's a little bit further way to go, but Deion Dawkins is a beast. Here, the pull and the running back are going the same way. Josh Allen's going to read the defender. He's flying downhill. So because second-level defenders, what did I say? Flying to the hole. No one even considers the fact Josh Allen might keep it. He gets a huge scramble right down the pipe. Now, another play that we've actually seen with Cam Newton. Pull Joe Tooney. He's going the same way as James White. Blitzer doesn't respect the fact that Cam could possibly keep the ball. Explosive run, isn't even touched until he gets near the sideline. Now, where it gets interesting is when you get bash action. Bash just means back away from the puller. So now the pullers are actually leading the way for the quarterback instead of the running back. And this is what can really drive defenses crazy, especially if you mix in some motion. So once again, Josh Allen is looking this way like he's reading this unblocked defender, and he is, but he also knows that if he keeps it, there's a puller backside leading the way for him. And then you'll see the tight end, instead of keeping this guy unblocked, there's a little influence block to make him think that he's being engaged, but he's just making time for the tackle to get there. Tight end gets to the second level. Josh Allen is able to run into the end zone again, barely even touched. Now, Cam Newton running the same counter bash concept. Puller is not going towards the same side as the running back. He's going to the quarterback. You're looking that way like you're reading that defender. Instead, keep the ball, run behind your pulling guard. Nice little scramble there from Cam Newton. And then there were also some other concepts, like I mentioned, I really liked. There was like some speed option where the quarterback runs like he's pretty much more of like an outside zone kind of situation. Pitch it based on where the defender reads. Also, we saw some pistol action. We also seen that with like Jaden Daniels, where they'll go with a duo option where you have the running back in the pistol, the quarterback is reading the edge defender. You either just let it on the dive if the defender decides to squeeze. If he stays put, you have different options. So I'm getting a little bit in the weeds there. I got really excited going through this, and I had to kind of contain myself. But pretty much everything that we've seen from Drake Maye in college, we've also seen during the Cam Newton days. And like you mentioned, Josh McDaniels brought up Josh Allen and saying, oh, maybe we can do different things with Drake. Those are some of the concepts that we've seen from Josh Allen also translate to the Cam Newton playbook.
I mean, this is why the Josh McDaniels idea is so exciting. And now a lot of guys do this. Alex Van Pelt mentioned, you can only run what your guys are comfortable with. But Josh has done it to like the most extent, where he had Tom Brady, one of the least mobile quarterbacks in football, ran the offense successfully that way. And then, yeah, the offense wasn't great overall under Cam Newton, but being able to, you mentioned, in a year, but he came late too. He signed in June, and then they basically revamped and brought that entire, the run action into the offense with Cam Newton was able to get it done that way too. So it's good stuff.
I didn't even touch on Jacoby Brissett either, because obviously the Houston game,
that's right.
He was using even more unconventional looks because Jacoby was running from under center. So they would have like an offset back in this really weird under center look. He would fake a jet sweep or he'd fake a pitch and then just go out the back door, and no one knew he had the ball because all the action was going the other way. So I know there's some questions about Josh in this system, but when it comes to running with Drake Maye, if that's what you're looking forward to, maybe they'll do a little bit less because Cam had to run to be successful because he couldn't throw. But I think we'll see a lot more of Drake keeping it in some critical situations.
And that's where we look at our final section of the film is these layered concepts, RPOs. You also have a triple option in here, which will be exciting. But that's where Mike Vrabel mentioned the offense, and we want to do things that our players are comfortable with. We're not just going to run RPOs just because we want to run RPOs. We're going to run RPOs because our guys are comfortable doing so. And I think we'll be able to do it here with the Patriots, with Drake Maye. So take us through these layered concepts that the Patriots and Josh McDaniels could run.
Yeah, and we've kind of seen the Patriots. We saw the Patriots dabble a little bit in RPOs. Most of them were bubbles. I'm ignoring those because those are very easy to install. They're pretty straightforward. Sure. I'm more interested in the downfield RPOs because that's where I think Drake is a real problem, because I think he reads these out pretty well. He's got a quick release. He can adjust his arm angles. We're going to see that a little bit right here. On this one to Demario Douglas. He's going to pull it, see that void in the defense. Even though there's a defender right in his face, he's able to get it outside arm to Demario Douglas for a chunk of yards on first down. We actually saw this. I believe this is with Mac Jones. Even he was throwing some downfield RPOs. Not a ton, but they were in the playbook. Going to get a slant here from Nelson Aguilar. Little flat route here from Jacoby Brissett. Mac's going to pull it. Nice throw over the middle. Like all the space this creates. That's why I like the downfield RPOs. It's one thing, okay, I have to defend a bubble screen. But really, what is a linebacker supposed to do when he's this far away and you're throwing that far behind him? It's pretty much indefensible as long as the offensive line doesn't get a penalty. I'd love to see more of those kinds of actions. Even Cam Newton and N'Keal Harry. Oh, yeah, this was actually the game. But in that Seahawks game, remember like the keel took a big shot to the head. It was a pretty nasty hit, but that was another chunk play on a similar concept. But we also saw different types of route combinations. Here, you're going to get the slant from Julian Edelman, but you're going to get an out. I believe it's from Damiere Byrd here. So we get the slant there. Cam probably going to hit this, but he waited a little bit longer on the out to Damiere Byrd. Just, again, some diversity of concepts, not just all slants, which is pretty much all Drake threw. You get some different things here. Also, we saw when Jimmy Garoppolo was in Vegas with Josh, a lot of these under center slant throws, because what the 49ers would do a lot, because they were in so much outside zone. Teams knew it, and they started to anticipate it. Backside defenders would start to get greedy. The way they would punish that, especially from under center, because you're not really expecting an RPO. Not a lot of teams run them. And if they do, it's like a smoke screen. So what they do is line up in an under center outside zone look. This defender kind of biting just a little bit too much, creates that void for Devontae Adams right behind him. Explosive play for number 17. Would love to see more of those. I know the Bills use a ton of those, so I'd like to see those incorporated a little bit more. But also the triple option, where you completely maximize your quarterback's ability to punish the defense. You can either say, oh, I'm going to go to the bubble screen right here and capitalize on a number advantage, which he absolutely could have. Or he can say, I'm going to read this side of the field, because with these nub formations, or when the tight end is the only receiver to one side, when you don't see anybody to this side of the field, it's basically the offense saying, hell yes, we're faking this run. He has the option to hand it off, but because there's no one really outside, Josh Allen is most likely going to win this battle. So we're going to see bubble screen to the bottom, but he's not looking there. He's reading this defender. The guy crashes. Josh Allen has plenty of space to work with. Run in the end zone, big boy. And you know where we've seen that before? Cam freaking Newton, same concept. You have the detached or nasty split from the bunch. You get the bubble screen, and then you're going to get the tight end isolated. Although in this example, Ryan Izzo, it was so weird watching this, by the way, because Ryan Izzo moves so much, or not Ryan Izzo. Oh my God. Oh yeah, it is Ryan Izzo.
It was Ryan Izzo. Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I wasn't saying Larry, but he moves so much differently than Hunter Henry, because he's a little more stiff by the time he got to New England, and Ryan Izzo was a little looser. So I'm looking at this. I'm like, damn, Hunter Henry looks a lot different, but I forgot different 85.
Not him.
But exact same type of idea. Zone read here. Joey Bosa bites down too far. Defender takes forever to read it. Get a lot of space to the outside. And because we know that Drake Maye has the speed to get to the edge on these types of concepts, because although this isn't actually a triple option, I think he just doesn't like the slant window. Says, you know what? That's fine. I'll just keep it, tuck it, and then I'll get to the edge myself. So Drake Maye, we know, has more than enough speed to get outside, to punish guys with his athletic ability. So I'd like to see the layers where he can pass it, he can run it, he can hand it off. I just want to see on a consistent basis, even the handoffs, like Kendrick Bourne was a massive gadget player for them on reverses, end arounds, sweeps, and things like that. So I just want a type of offense where if the offense is on schedule on at least 40-30% of the plays, everything is on the table. The defense doesn't know if Drake Maye is going to keep it, if it's going to be a running back, if it's going to be a skill player, what have you. That's what, to me, is truly maximizing this offense. Motion's a big part of it as well. Josh isn't big with motion. He's kind of middle of the pack, but he uses it with purpose. I'd like to see a little more of the short motion, the things that we've seen from more of the West Coast offense. It's just because they give receivers such an advantage of a head start speed-wise, not being able to press them, what have you. Right. But, a lot of ways that we've seen from the past with Cam Newton, with the Raiders, even with Mac Jones, that McDaniels has a very diverse playbook. I don't have any doubt that he's going to have the ability to maximize Drake Maye. It's more going to be about how much Drake can take on and what the kind of, I would say, checkpoints are for his development.
Can you believe in my glory days of Division III college football that we also ran that triple option where we had the read option, then we had the bubble out, and you read, where's leverage this way, that way. Yeah, I had the ability to pull the ball. I didn't do it that often at all, but technically it was in my repertoire. But no, that's exciting. It looks like it looks like this is slam dunk strong. We shouldn't get ahead of ourselves. We got ahead of ourselves last year, but it feels like these two together can be a good pairing with Drake's, massive skill set, strong arm, throwing down the middle, running the football, his ability to take in a ton of information, which he did last year, and kind of use that. Obviously, it'll be different, new system, a lot of learning to do, but year two jump is exciting for quarterback Drake Maye. So, believe that's going to do it here for our film room on Drake Maye. Taylor, thank you for taking the time, cutting that up, knowing what to talk about and what to do. I appreciate it. It makes my job easier, and I know that the fans of the show like it too. So This was fun. That is Drake Maye and how Josh McDaniels and him can work together on this offense. I mentioned this morning on the show that we were going to do a mailbag today. We're pushing that to tomorrow. We wanted to get as much film in as possible on Drake and Josh. So tomorrow, we're going to look at Terrell Williams, Patriots' new defensive coordinator, a little bit backstory on him in Detroit. And then we're also going to take your mailbag questions after that. So we'll re-ask for those on Twitter. We'll publish that again. Throw them in as many as possible and come back here tomorrow to ask those questions as well. We're TBD on a time, or do we know what time we're going tomorrow?
I believe 5:30.
Okay, look out for 5:30. If it changes, head over to Twitter, and we will keep you guys updated on that. We'll keep you here updated on the channel as well. So thank you for working with us as we continue working through this Patriots offseason. We always appreciate you watching. So until next time, take care of yourselves. Take care of – I need to find the outro before I do this. And it's gone. Where is it? Where's our outro? I guess I'm just ending it. Our outro is gone. So take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And we'll see you tomorrow. Peace out, everyone.